Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're back in War Thunder and it's time to have a talk about the mouse. Now obviously yesterday it was said that the mouse is getting removed from the standard tech tree in War Thunder when update 1.91 rolls around, and in this video I want to make a case for why it should not be removed from the standard tech tree and come up with some solutions on how to still fit it in the game in this new model that Gaijin has proposed. Also on top of this idea, go through some other ideas which have been brought up by different community members on why either it shouldn't be taken out or even just talking about the whole reconstruction of the German area as of what we know today. So if you want a quick TLDW, do I think the mouse should be removed from the standard tech tree? The answer is no, and the main reason why is because it is a historical vehicle. It was created in real life, it is an iconic vehicle. Even if it may not be that useful in War Thunder, it still has its place in the game from a realistic standpoint. So, going on to the other part of it, let's talk about a few things that were brought up when I was discussing this with other members of the community after the live stream we did today in the fireside chat. So the first one's from Dog for Life, and he was talking about the Panther II and why he believes it shouldn't be taken out at this moment in time. And his key issue is the fact that they are not, they're taking out a meta vehicle at 6.7 and they're not replacing it with anything. They're pretty much replacing it with a 7.7 medium tank, which is in the form of the M48, the American vehicle, with an upgraded rangefinder, which was used by the Germans, but at the same time, it's a 7.7 vehicle. It is nowhere near 6.7, so you are limiting the 6.7 pool of vehicles and not adding anything to it. So what he personally would have rather seen, and I agree with this wholeheartedly, is if you are going to replace the Panther II, which I do agree should happen, we need to put a tech tree equivalent in. Now a tech tree equivalent is simple. Some form of Leopard prototype would be the one to put in, which isn't the Panther II. So at least that issue will hopefully get solved with time, because now we have the Leopard line that they've set up, so you can just stick it in there somewhere. So yeah, that's hopefully is an issue that will be solved, but right now there doesn't seem to be a solution in what they have suggested. The next one's from Urist, and it is definitely an idea which I didn't personally think about too much, and it's the idea of the usefulness of the mouse in other game modes. I hear a lot of people talking about it from a realistic standpoint, including myself, because to be honest, a lot of us play realistic. Well, in arcade, the mouse is a completely different beast to what it is in realistic, and also in simulator, there's actually a setup that you can get on, a specific set of vehicles on one side, Germany against everyone else, where you actually, it's Germany and everyone else versus the Soviets, where the mouse is actually top dog, and it's pretty fun to play. So there are scenarios in the game where the mouse does fit, just not regular ones that maybe you and me might see, because of the fact that we play mainly realistic on this channel and also in at least my viewer base. The last one is the simple question, right? And this is not pertaining to the mouse but the other ones. Why do we not remove other vehicles due to historical reasons? Because if you're going to remove the Panther II, the Tiger II 105, the Coelian, why not remove stuff like the R2Y2, the whole reproduction, and others, which are, let's just say, dubious at best, especially when it comes to the R2Y2. And the answer is, or the answer that Gaijin has given in the past, is you need to have relevant equivalents to these vehicles in order to replace them. So that's why the R2Y2 will probably never go anywhere, because of the fact that you have a set of 3 vehicles there which cannot be replaced by anything which is anywhere close to them when it comes to what Japan actually used. The whole reproduction, there is actually an interesting vehicle which is pretty much just a low rider tracked vehicle with a recoilless rifle on it. I might go into it in a later video, but at least for now I just want to thank Switzerland for bringing that one up. So there are candidates for the Hurry production to be replaced, but for the R2Y2 there isn't a tech tree equivalent. And the thing is, that's a great argument, right? You want to fill areas of your tech tree, you want to make sure that the tech tree itself has no holes in it. The problem where this falls apart is you are taking out the Panther II and you're not adding in a tech tree equivalent. you are just completely missing it, unless, you know, later down the line we find out that they are adding some form of 6.7 in, but at least in the current plans, that is just not the case. So let's talk about the reasons why it has been told. Well, we've been told why the mouse is getting taken out of the game, and maybe some answers to them, or maybe just some ideas floating around. But remember, my general belief is it shouldn't be taken out, even though it is struggling in the matchmaking area. I would rather, if they were struggling with the matchmaker, just put it up slightly in BR, if that is really the issue with it, or keep it at the same BR, and just make it so it has some form of better quantitative matchmaking state, where it either has better matchmaking or worse matchmaking, depending compared to what other what other stuff is going on. And also as well, I think a machine like the mouse, if it is having these matchmaking issues, if we ever do get a more expanded quantitative matchmaking system, which is more like the World of Tanks system, where you have like a 3-5-7 system or a 5-10 system, what that basically means is you have 3 top tier tanks, 5 mid tier tanks, and then 7 low tier tanks. Then the mouse would massively benefit from these ideas, and I think a lot of vehicles would, especially when it comes to heavies. So how about those kind of ideas being incorporated as well? I mean, maybe these would be ideas later down the line which would be added, but they're definitely things to think about. So the fact that it's the main reason why they're taking out is not being able to balance it. The problem is there's a bunch of vehicles like this. The main one which always springs to mind is the Type 60 ATM, right? The one with the incredibly slow missiles. Now, this is quite a fast little vehicle. It does have scouting to it, so there is an additional opportunity it has compared to the mouse, and also it has artillery, so it has something going for it. But if we talk about its major armament, the missiles, it's completely useless. It really isn't a very good vehicle in any way, shape or form, and if we're talking about balance, that thing could go down to rank BR 1.0 or any BR, and it would still have the same experience. It would not be a fun vehicle to play. It would be hell on earth. It also has keyboard-controlled missiles just to add to the fire. So there are other machines out there which you can point to which struggle at their BRs already. And if you look at them and think about, well, how do I balance this? If I put it up in BR, yes, it'd still be useless. If I put it down in BR, it would actually still be useless. So yeah, that's a little bit of an odd one. Another one as well, from a personal point of view, is the IS-3. I feel like the IS-3 is a very similar situation for the mouse. If you put the IS-3 up, it gets caned by heat. If you put it down, then it's going to do really well. So that's another one to think about. The other one as well is if we look at the new tech tree that they've set up with the M48s leading into the KPZ, you can definitely see there's some form of American line going on there. And then of course you've got the Leopard line, which is just going to be Leopards, whether it be 1A1s, 1A4s, 1A5s, 1A5s, A1s, you know, whatever it is, they're going to be, you know, more Leopards going in. And the thing is, if we have a look at those lines, there is a little bit of an issue that the mouse itself doesn't fit anymore in the tech tree. You know, there isn't a place where it would go. But the thing is, at least if we look at the new one, which is coming out in update 1.91, it wouldn't fit in that structure. But what would fit in that structure is if you decided to tag the mouse to the end of the Tiger 2H via arrow, and then split the mouse onto the next M48, leave a gap there, so therefore there is a separation and a change of vehicle moving from the heavy era of World War II Germany into the medium era of Western German vehicles. I think that would be a great way to go. On top of this as well, you could just have it so it isn't connected to anything. It's just kind of floating out in its own ether. And we have vehicles like this in the game. The TAM is one of them. If you go and look at the TAM in the tech tree, it's not connected to anything. It doesn't have any arrows connecting to it, meaning it has no allegiance to any specific line. Yeah, it's near the Begleitpanzer, but that doesn't really mean anything. There's no arrow, there's no efficiency progress when it comes to its research. It's just by itself. Why can't the mouse be similar to that, just left in the tech tree itself? Now, let's talk about the major point, which is the massive factor with it. The fact that it can be seen as useless in-game. when I look at the mouse, the biggest problem I have with it is it isn't what I would deem as a game-changing vehicle. It doesn't have a real impact in who wins or loses a map. All of the situations that I've been in with the mouse, what I end up with is a situation where I don't feel like I'm having any influence. There's a lot of games that I played today, and there's been a lot of games in history where I feel like the mouse is just way too slow. It takes me too long to get to objectives. Yes, I do get a few kills, but they're exit kills. They're either kills from second spawns of the enemy vehicles where they've already been killed by the wave of leopards and M48s which are coming forward, or they have pushed through my lines and I'm trying to pick them off. This is pretty much means that, you know, my KD in the mouse is a little bit over 1-to-1, and I generally do okay with it, but I never feel like I'm having an influence on whether I'm winning the battle or not. And this is mainly an issue with its speed, which is why when people bring up the E100 and the issues that it has, the fact is it's still a bit faster than the mouse. You can actually move around the map. And also the fact that once you commit to an area on the map, so with the mouse, you're not really going anywhere else. It's going to take you an incredibly long time to move between areas, so what happens is you just end up in real doldrum areas where you are either in between 2 points or just sat at 1 point and you're watching your team get massacred somewhere else and there's nothing you can do. Whereas if you're in a medium tank, you could get over there, you could get involved. So that's something to think about. Also, over the last years or so, we've had a bigger push into larger maps, Sansa Sinai, when it comes to Fulda as well, El Alamein, with the contour lines or the gradients that that map has. You know, the mouse is definitely going to be confined to a certain area compared to a lot of vehicles. So yeah, that is definitely a problem. Also, something else to add in. What I would have liked to see, and I brought this up in a few older videos talking about what could replace these vehicles, I would have liked to see the SP1C added, the Sparpanzer. I think it would have been a nice change to how Germany has played at 6.7, but that's, you know, I just wanted to add that in just to get your mind thinking. Go and have a look at the SP1C, really interesting little vehicle, and yes, it was built and it was tested. The other thing is the issue with heat existing for the mouse. Obviously, the armor being obsolete when it comes to heat. And I've actually kind of found a little bug with the mouse, because what used to happen is you used to get breached or cannoned in the mouse, and you wouldn't really be able to do a lot. There have been a lot of circumstances where I've been breached, and I've still been able to fire both guns on the mouse. So I don't know whether that's some issue when it comes to a bug, or whether it's supposed to do that, but it just seems a little bit odd to me. But yeah, as the progression of military stuff, or I shouldn't say stuff, military advancements kept going, you obviously had these large behemoths being thought of, especially from the Soviet side of things. You know, the IS-4M turning up, the IS-3, then you had, of course, the IS-7, you had all the various objects, even the 257 being thought of. So heat was pretty much designed to deal with these larger targets at a decent click. And what this meant was heavy tanks over time just pretty much disappeared from history, and now what we have is the standard idea of the MBT, which if we compare like the MBTs of today to the older vehicles, I think they would be much more reminiscent of the tactical style of a medium than of a heavy tank of that era. But it's, you know, it's an interesting debate, at least through that. But the main thing is, if you have a look at every nation, the heavy tank idea just died out, and because of this issue, that means that the mouse, being one of the last real iconic ones, pretty much the last iconic one for Germany, means that it sits at a BR which is just going to get canned by a lot of vehicles which were designed to nuke it. So that is the main issue when we talk about the matchmaking problems with it. But for me, it's mainly the speed issue. The other one as well is it's a large target for artillery and bombs, so this means that it's easy to take out. And those are the main problems when it comes to being useless and realistic. But they all come down to speed is the main factor for me. Speed and being able to maneuver around the place, meaning that you are only destined to fight in one area and one area only. Also, something that I looked up, looking at the statistics of the mouse, the playtime on it from the general community is incredibly low. People seem to much more favor M48s and also Leopards, and it was kind of interesting to see the outcry for the mouse, since not many people were playing it. It just seems to be one of those odd things, and I'm sure a lot of people now will, research rank 4 and 5 Germany to make sure to keep these vehicles, which is great, you should do, but at the same time, why are there a ton of people complaining about a vehicle being taken out of the game, which is hardly played? It would be like looking at the Rogo, the Japanese Tier 1 Premium, which is not played really at all if you look at the stats, and complaining about that leaving the game. It's just a bit of an odd one, and I think that's just because of the iconic nature of the mouse, so therefore I can at least understand it. So let's say, looking at these reasons, the obsolete nature of it, you can kind of understand why they took it out of the game, or why they're going to take it out of the game. Does this mean that I agree with this? No, of course not, for the reasons that we talked about before, and also there are still circumstances where you can be useful in the mouse, whether it's in arcade or sim, or even realistic. There are many maps where I can hold down an area, even though people can go around me and I need a lot of help from my team to actually win the battle. I can still get some kills, I can still do okay, and I'm as useful as I would be if I was in something like a Leopard, apart from getting around the map, which is the main problem. But you can still do well in it, so obsoleteness is not true completely in the mouse. The other idea is, let's say it is taken out. So how do we put it in a faithful way to the mouse itself without destroying what at least I see as its general legacy? So the first thing is, in my opinion, there are three separate ways you could add it in, which I think would be the better ways of keeping it, in activity and making it a vehicle which people can still research. So the first one is doing it like you have the Hargo. If you don't know about the French or some Japanese vehicles, what they did was they made it so you couldn't get access to these vehicles until you hit a specific rank on the specific tech trees. So I think if you hit rank 2 for the French, you actually unlock two French rank 1 vehicles to play, and the reason for this is after the penetration changes, these vehicles were just rendered pretty much obsolete against anything they fought. The Hargo was exactly the same way, and because the Hargo was such an iconic vehicle, a lot of people made a fuss, and therefore it got added back in this form. So if you research a specific rank or vehicle or get to a specific rank, then that unlocks these vehicles. Why not do that with the mouse? Why not say if you reach rank 6 of Germany, so you've gone past what is seen as the World War II vehicles, why not, as a nice addition, you get yourself the ability to either unlock the mouse through research, or give you the ability to just have the mouse, since the majority of the community will have it anyway. Why not open this option up to everyone, so therefore people can still get the mouse, and it's not stuck in the tech tree in a bit of an odd area, and not just sat there for people who don't want to research it, because obviously it's a little bit of a stumbling block between specific vehicles and between specific playstyles. The other way to do it is just to add it in as an extra squadron vehicle. Like if we've had 3 squadron vehicles already, let's say the next time they add in 3 more squadron vehicles, they add in another naval, another ground, and another aircraft. Why not just add in a 4th, which would be the mouse, right? So once again, giving opportunities for people to research this machine through alternate methods, which wouldn't technically be putting them in the tech tree itself. Now remember, all of the vehicles that are getting removed out of the tech tree, now I actually checked the Russian website for this, a moderator responded and said all of these vehicles are getting moved over to the premium area. So they're going to be moved over to the right side of the tech tree. Well, guess what's also there? Squadron vehicles. You can make the mouse a squadron vehicle, and I think this would mean that a lot of people would be happy, because you'd be able to research it alongside the other vehicles that you've just added, which means that you can get your hands on the iconic mouse. You just have to work together with your friends or your squad mates to get it if you don't have it before. The other one is setting up events like the LA 174. So The LA174 is a machine which I believe has been offered twice. It may have been 3 times, but I can at least remember 2 separate occasions. And what happened was, they added it to the game on Levechkin's birthday. And the idea is you had a week to research it. And the most recent one was in 2017 with the LA174. And what this meant was, for a week straight, there was this vehicle that just appeared in your Soviet tech tree, and you, as an individual, could research it if you wanted to. You could gold it if you felt like it. You could also just research it normally with either premium vehicles or standard tech tree vehicles, and the idea was it would be available for a week. If you didn't get it within the week, it would become hidden again. I kind of like this idea for vehicles which are not really seen as meta. The LA174, in my opinion, is not really a meta vehicle, and it does have some interesting characteristics to it though, especially when it comes to its engine, but overall it's not a vehicle that's going to take over games like some of the other Soviet vehicles. So adding it in this limited research opportunity way, I think was a very interesting and nice move, and I would like to see this expanded. So when they talk about adding the mouse back in for events, these 3 types of events, you know, the progressing to a certain point and being able to unlock it as an extra squadron vehicle, or just like the limited research opportunity for the LA174, I would love to see this. I think if you have to take it out, of the game, you reintroduce it in these 3 ways. But there is one thing that must not happen with this vehicle. And that is what has technically happened to the LA174 already, but instead, this is a new scenario with it. Under no circumstances must you add the mouse as a market vehicle, which is only available in loot boxes for each of the updates. If you do this, then what we have is a situation where you have a vehicle which could be researched before, and now you are giving artificial rarity to it, so people have to buy it off the market. And for me, if you are already having issues with balancing this vehicle through matchmaking, and then you put it on the Guardian marketplace, not under, you know, a specific price, because obviously that's controlled by the community, but if you put it on the marketplace, that is just showing to me that you are okay with this thing being in the game and sold, but what you don't want to do is keep it as a standard research vehicle, and instead you want to profit off its iconic status as the World War II super heavy that we all know. It also means that in the future, if the mouse is successful in this sense, in the loot box idea, then we might see other vehicles unfortunately suffer the same fate. And I just don't want that to happen. It would set a horrible precedent if this happens, therefore I don't want it to happen. The LA174 is already available in these loot boxes when it comes to the updates, but then again, that is a limited research opportunity vehicle. It was never, or at least I can't remember a time where it was offered in the tech tree itself before, and then removed and then became a limited research one. So I hope with the mouse this is not a trend starter, and instead a little bit of thinking is done here, so it isn't just used to maximize profits and is instead used to try and garner a bit of favor with the community as a cool and interesting event vehicle. The moment this thing becomes a coupon is the moment that, in my opinion, you have lost my trust when it comes to the market, because I completely can understand the issues that can come into matchmaking with this vehicle, but if you add it in as a coupon vehicle, it is very obvious it is just being done for profits and unfortunately nothing else, because that means you're okay with it being in the game as long as people pay for it, and that is not a good precedent to have on the market itself. Anyway, I hope you have enjoyed this video. I have enjoyed making it, and I hope also it shows that there are certain vehicles I do want out of the game. I'll be completely fine with the R2Y2s being out of the game, but when it comes to historical vehicles which struggle with matchmaking, there are much better options to do instead of just removing them from research. I would rather see them in game and I would rather get them, the place that they deserve when it comes to the tech trees. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Ambrosius McClellan, B. Young, Blackie, Daniel Stanton, John Ryman, Joseph Anders, Martinez, Mopar 1969, Moxie, Super Cacti, Uyans Terry, and Elove Goats, and of course Seductive Trash Can for supporting the channel.